Now let us try to understand reading and modifying data present in DOM nodes. So for explaining this concept, I would like to take the previous diagram which I have explained for understanding the DOM tree concept, or while explaining the DOM nodes concept, whichever the diagram I used, I will be utilizing the same diagram for explaining this current concept, that is reading and modifying data present in DOM nodes. In the previous session, I already told you that when you write an HTML code like this and when you send the code to the browser's HTML parser will take the HTML code, and I said HTML parser will be converting the HTML code into DOM tree representation, something like this. So after converting the HTML code into DOM tree, I already told you that each and every element present inside the HTML will be actually converted into nodes like this. So after converting all elements into nodes or all HTML content into nodes, I said the DOM tree representation will be actually passed to the drawing engine, and I said the drawing engine will be finally displaying the user interface something like this in the browser. Okay, I think in the previous session by mistakenly I have written node in place of name text box. Let me correct this now. Let me write name colon. Now in this session we will be understanding how to read and modify data present in the nodes. Okay, so I already said these contents are called as, or these rectangular boxes in the DOM tree technically called as nodes. In case if you want to read or modify data present in any DOM tree node, we need to understand how to achieve that. Okay, so for explaining the concept, I would like to explain few more important things over here. Now listen carefully. You assume that end user has typed some data into the text box, maybe into name text box like Ravi. Now guess where exactly this data will be stored. Anyhow, the end user or even you may feel that the data is actually stored inside the text box. Okay, but remember this text box is actually a visible representation of this node. Because of this node only, the drawing engine has created this text box. It means that when the user is typing some data into the text box, actually this data has to be stored somewhere inside this node. Now guess where exactly this text box value or text box data will be stored. Anyhow, most probably if you use your common sense, you will understand that inside the value property, obviously that data will be stored. Let me show you properly. So inside this specific node, value property is present. Inside this value property, the data typed by the end user into the text box will be actually stored over here. Okay, because this text box is the visible representation for this DOM tree node. Okay, so whatever the actions end user will be performing in this user interface, actually all those actions will be recorded somewhere in this DOM tree, right? So I believe you understood the point. Whatever the action done by the end user into the user interface in the browser, actually all actions are recorded in the corresponding DOM tree, right? So when the end user gives some data into this text box, actually that data will be recorded here, and if user is clicking on submit button, even that action will be recorded somewhere in this DOM tree only. So every action for that matter, it will be actually recorded in the DOM tree only. So I believe you understood the point. Now my requirement is I wanted to programmatically read data present in this value property Ravi, right? By using a JavaScript code, I would like to read this data. You remember one important point. In order to read any data present in the DOM tree or in order to modify any data present in DOM tree, you can easily able to do this by using something called as JavaScript. Now let us assume that I wanted to read this value properties data by using some JavaScript code. Now the question here is what to do for achieving this. The answer is very simple. What you need to do here is you need to create a variable. Any variable name you take. Let me take the variable name as v1. So if you can able to create a variable which points to this complete node, it will become very easy to read the value properties data. Anyhow, you will be immediately getting a doubt here. The doubt is how to create the variable which points to the node. That is a later topic. In the next session, I will be explaining how to create a variable which will point to the node. But if you observe this variable carefully, I am saying that this variable is pointing to this node somehow. Okay. So if v1 variable is pointing to this node, now how to read this value properties data? Very simple. In case if you are aware of object oriented programming languages like maybe C# language, Java language or C++, you can quickly understand that we have to use v1 dot value for reading this text box data. Anyhow, that syntax is correct in JavaScript also. Now let me go back. Now my requirement is I wanted to read this value properties value present in this corresponding node. How to read? Very simple. I must use main variable name dot sub variable name. So v1 is the variable which is pointing to this complete node, and inside this I want value properties data, and hence I must write v1 dot value. So in the left hand side you declare some variable, maybe var v2. So this v2 will automatically get Ravi. As simple as this. Okay. So here the key point is, if you can able to create a variable which points to the node, then you can able to read any data present in the node. Not only reading, even if you want, you can modify the data present in the node also. Now my requirement is, by using a JavaScript, I wanted to change Ravi to Hari. Possible or not possible? Yes, obviously it is possible. So in the JavaScript code, now we need to write v1 dot value is equals to, let us say I have written Hari in single quotations or maybe in double quotations. Once this code is executed by the JavaScript engine, obviously JavaScript engine will be placing Hari in place of Ravi in the value property. Whenever the DOM node data is changed, obviously that changes will be reflected in the text box. So in the text box you will see Hari in place of Ravi. I believe you understood the point, right? Here the key point is, if you can able to create a variable which points to the node, then literally you can able to read or modify data present in the node, any node. Okay. In case if I want to read or modify data present in this node, very simple, I must create some variable which will points to this node, right? And using that variable we can able to read or modify data present in this node. I believe you understood the point. Okay. Not only for this text box node only, even for button control also, even this is also a node. If I can able to create a variable which points to this node, I can able to read or modify data present in this corresponding node. Believe you understood the point. That's all. As simple as this. And one more important point which you need to understand here is, so in many cases many people will be getting a doubt about the properties. Anyhow, in case if you know that value property is present, so in many cases many students will be getting a doubt over here, or many people will be getting a doubt over here. The common doubt is, since as a trainer I am already aware of the DOM tree and the properties, I may be knowing that type property is present, ID property is present, accept is present, access key is present, value is present, and all these properties are present. So not only these properties, there are many unused properties are also present inside this node. But anyhow, as a fresher or maybe as a beginner to the JavaScript, how you will be knowing what are all the properties present inside this DOM node? In case if you don't know that value property is there, obviously you cannot be able to utilize this value property. Then how will you identify what property names are present inside the DOM node? Very simple. Even without knowing anything also, you can able to identify what properties are present in the corresponding DOM node. So for this, what you need to do here is, first you need to create a variable which points to the node, and in the debug mode you place the cursor on top of the corresponding v1 variable in the debug mode. Okay, I already explained how to perform the debugging in the JavaScript. My point here is, you create a variable which points to the corresponding DOM node, and after that, after executing that variable creation code and after getting the reference of the corresponding node, you place the cursor on top of the corresponding variable. In the debug mode, when you place the cursor on top of the variable, you will see a window. In that window you will see all the properties and the values also. In this case, you will see type. What is the value of the type? Text, right? So on so forth. You will see id value also, right? Not only that, you will see value properties value. In case if the data given by the end user into the text box is Ravi, obviously that Ravi will be visible next to the value property, right? So all what I am trying to explain here is I am explaining how to see the entire property names and its values present in the DOM tree by using debugging approach. Anyhow, if you are not able to understand this point at this point of time, obviously in the next tutorial I will be showing all these things, right? So I will be directly showing in my Visual Studio, and in the Visual Studio I will be explaining how to observe this node content by using debugging technique. So probably definitely you will understand what I am talking at this point of time, right? So I believe you understood the point. Now I think everyone understood how to read or modify data present in the DOM nodes. The key point is creating a variable which will point to the corresponding node. Believe you understood.